I don't know that anybody, maybe others didn't, but I certainly didn't think about in the end, were we going to be this, established 25-year-old congregation with, several rabbis and all these kids in Sunday school and all this activity going on, like a real congregation.
The people who started it had no idea what we were doing. We really had no clue. We thought, well, how hard can this be?
There was 6 months before we had a rabbi, so it was just a bunch of people.
I think the first meeting we had was 40 people, and I think we were just delighted. I thought, wow, this is it. This is great. We got 40 people. It's going to be a small hamparah.
Well, the people who came to Shir Tikvah came with a passion about social action, and they wanted that to be part of what their synagogue was going to be about.
You didn't join Shir Tikvah because your family had been there. You grew up here. It was the default shul down the street. It was very intentional.
Your first board of directors is a working board because there's no staff. So you do everything. You make the copies, you write the things up, you send the communications, you do it all. And so everybody was very active on a daily basis practically with each other.
You waited for that bulletin to come out to tell you when the service was going to be, what was going to be happening at the service, and you had that schedule on your refrigerator and you called each other, are you going, are you going?
I was remembering some of the major things we had to decide as a group that weren't automatic, which started with, were we going to have a rabbi or not? It wasn't set up a priori that we would be a rabbi-led congregation. It was very much a lay-led congregation. So there had to be discussions about that. The congregation will vote. Do we want to have a rabbi or not? And of course we did, and we were all delighted that that's the way it went. The next vote that I remember was, what kind of affiliation, if any, were we going to have?
Once Rabbi came, she wanted us to affiliate.
People came from really different backgrounds. So some of us had grown up conservative. There were even some who grew up Orthodox. There were people who'd been involved in the Reform movement. So there were people coming from a lot of different perspectives.
And there were people who they really wanted to remake this synagogue in a whole different image. It was the kids who made this speech. So there were the Dinnerstein girls were there, Schlesinger kids. It was the Dorfman daughter who gave this talk about camp. Only Reform has camp. If we don't affiliate Reform, there won't be this camp experience. And she was 16, and she talked about what her camp experience meant to her.
The kids were very involved in Nifty and Nafti, didn't want to lose that connection with their friends through the youth group. And, and the Reconstructionists did not have developed a youth group program. And so they really were pushing us to affiliate Reform.
We voted because of her thing about do it for us, give us the legacy we can connect it to this movement.
Kids have always had a really strong role in Shir Tikvah. I mean, we set up the religious school as quickly as we could, and kids were all different ages, and people who were teaching there hadn't necessarily taught Jewish learning before. But it was a fun time for the kids to get to know each other and to start learning things in a Jewish context.
If you had told us that we'd have 100 members, I would have told you were crazy. I don't think any of us really imagined it would turn out like this.
We've gotten larger. I think we've in some ways become more mainstream, and that people do find us just because we are in the neighborhood, where before you really sought us out as different. But I don't think that's a bad thing. So to sustain us, we are going to need members of all kinds, Jews of all kinds. But I still think Shir Tikvah has an extraordinary group of intentionally Jewish. And when I look at our kids, our Shir Tikvah kids, when you're at a community-wide event with kids from lots of synagogues, you can find those Shir Tikvah kids. And then when you look at what they're involved in, they're making a difference, they're making a mark, they're living their life large. I think that's Shir Tikvah.
What I love about Shir Tikvah are those core values that remain essential about the dignity and value of every person, about worship that is engaging and participatory, about a Judaism that calls us to make the world around us a better place. And so my vision continued to build upon the vision of the founders about how do we engage people in building together an inclusive and dynamic, spirited Jewish home here in the Twin Cities, and it's a real joy. I hope the founders and everybody over the last 25 years, people who have moved away and people who are still here, feel a great sense of pride and accomplishment.
If I could talk to the founders, I would definitely want to thank them for creating such an open community.
If I had to grow up all over again, I would choose Shir Tikvah every time.
I wish everyone could grow up in a synagogue like this where it's just expected that you are always pushing for the next big thing.
This place is unimaginable. Once you are here, you never want to leave.